98.1 FM. Good morning. It's time for Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Let's get started. The papers are here. The analysts are also in. It's time to get together. So you are also there. It means you would be able to send your thoughts relating to the headlines this morning if you send them across to 0809 4440981. That's where we shall be reading, getting your messages across this morning. But of course, you can catch a live stream on youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. That said, I say big good morning to Lakunle Yusuf.
Good morning, Omas. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, Lagos. The waters, the heavens opened its windows and doors, and it's pouring, and it's elephants stuck in traffic, can't go forward, can't go back.
So we should be used to it by now every year. So it's just a given, like breathing, or you're seeing your shadow. You don't complain about your shadow, right? Well, anyway, just stay safe and dry. That's most very important for us right now. And keep your papers dry too as we get along this morning. Good morning, Devoe, Okorie.
Morning, Omas. Morning, Lagos. Lakunle. A new day, new week.
Yeah.
Cool. Amdi Kanu Ati Igboho.
All right. So in addition to that, I hope you are somewhere safe, or are you like Lakunle, somewhere where you're stuck, you can't go forward, you can't go backward?
We're here in Port Harcourt,
Okay.
where people use canoes and boats to move around when the rain floods.
All right. So let's dig into the papers this morning. Devoe, do us the honors now, and pick up the onion, and let's see, no tears from this one now. Let's go on to the Premium Times, where it screams now. Southeast governors resolved to meet Tinubu as the president over Nnamdi Kanu. Walk us through this story, Devoe.
Yes, like most of the regional governors meeting taking place, which is a new development in our polity. I think the northern governors have been doing that from time, but the southern governors, as well as the southwestern governors, have had major sessions in the recent 2 months. And the southeastern governors recently, when they met under the hosting of the Enugu state governor, Mba, they came out with a press release, which the chairman, that's Hope Uzodinma, did read out some points of agenda. And it was notable that they agreed on addressing some of the security insecurities that have been taking place within the Southeast. They said they would put together actionable plans as agreed. They talked about the burial of Ogbonna Onu, past Minister of Science Affairs. Then also, for the first time, they mentioned that they would make a concerted appeal to the federal government to release Nnamdi Kanu, who obviously has been under detention, despite the Court of Appeals ruling that the manner in which he was apprehended was against his fundamental human rights. However, the federal government, through the Supreme Court, struck out the appeal court's position and insisted that the status quo from the Federal High Court should persist. So what that has led to has been his detention all this while. Now, whether we like it or not, I think when we speak of security architecture in this country, when we speak of the persistent insecurity going on, we cannot remove insecurity from politics, no matter how you slice this challenge. It's clear, I mean, if you've been in Nigeria for the past 20 years, that you can trace a lot of the insecurity in this country to the work of political activity. And this has to do with every party. It has to do with those in power who find a way of utilizing criminal tendencies to be able to create narratives. Hence, we look at the fact that so-called styled freedom fighters like Nnamdi Kanu, Igboho, and some others who, at some points, the governments, depending on the administration, were against them, some of them were able to get some kind of political solutions. But in the Southeast, they seem not to have been able to come to a political solution to be able to resolve the issues at hand. And I need the government to get to a solution very quickly, because some way, somehow, you can tell that there's some level of what would I call it, influence or difference in how conflicts are resolved. Like sometimes we see the cases of the bandits or the insurgents who, after being caught, are given some kind of soft treatment. And in other areas of the country, whenever there's one crime or the other against the government or the military, there's a quick and harsh reaction. So I think that for the cause of what I call it fairness, balance, Nnamdi Kanu's detention should be given some consideration, because the truth is this: we all know as politicians that there is a connection between insecurity and politicking that is taking place. And I hope that now, as the Southeastern governors will go as one body, that they will take up the equal challenge of ensuring that if the federal government grants the request for a political way out for Nnamdi Kanu, that they will also do their bits to ensure, because I don't expect that if the federal government grants the request, that the insecurity will sustain at the same level. I expect them to take over their perimeters to ensure that those who are behind the instability. I mean, I moved from Enugu to Port Harcourt on Monday, and literally it was a case of traveling under massive surveillance because the streets were empty. How do you continue running your economy with the man-hour loss in 5 states, 5 industrial states, all in the name of the fear of the unknown gunmen? At least I'm still alive to speak to you today, but it cannot continue. And it's no longer a Southeastern problem. It is a Nigeria problem, because we're dearly in desire of GDP and income and growth. But if we continue pussyfooting and playing with gloves, our own insecurity, then we, at the end of the day, will be the ones as a country to suffer for it.
Thanks so much, Devoe, for your points now taken, for putting that, starting us off on that note from the Premium Times report there, where it states that Southeast governors resolved to meet Tinubu, the president, over Nnamdi Kanu for a political solution now. Let's go over to Lakunle. Lakunle, help us get into the next paper, the Daily Post newspaper, where the headline says, well, it seemed like a philosopher talking, but then is a lawyer. I wonder how Nigeria survives. Okorie, the EFCC boss, laments over huge stolen wealth or money. That's what's stated here. How did he come to this point where he's wondering now? Would wondering become action eventually?
Femi Kuti comes to mind this morning. I hope that the EFCC chairman, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, does not become a wanderer. You know that Femi Kuti song of yeah. So sometimes you want to laugh, sometimes you want to cry, sometimes you try to find a balance between crying and laughing when you hear people who are enabled by law and have the authority to do the right things say this kind of things. Okay, so you have seen the kind of money people moved on the eve of the end of a budget cycle. You have seen people who have spent government money for personal uses. You have seen the files. You have the evidences. What is stopping you from arresting and taking them to court to be prosecuted and to serve their time? What exactly? Okay, so you can't even go to that one that the law has enabled you to do. What is stopping you from naming them? We come every day, we show both about these things. Everything is said is not new to all of us. There have been several allegations, at least since 1999, of how people have used the instruments of the law, the office that they have occupied, that they have abused. We were here once, a chairman of the NDDC said he burns about 400 and something million naira because a herbalist says he should so that they will not remove it from the office. We were here when we spoke about the alleged yacht and luxury apartments and all that was owned by a sitting minister. We were here during the honorable off your mic. We have many instances of these things. We have senators who have come on air in newspapers to openly admit that they were offered bribes to perpetrate people in offices to do things. We have so many of these things being said. How many of them have you investigated? If corruption is this big in Nigeria, it must mean it is visible. If it is visible, how many of them have we arrested? So, in my opinion, I think that the chairman and his men should face their job. What the EFCC today is even more known for is for going to harass people in their homes, in their hotels, in places like that, where they don't have evidences. The ones you have evidences, what is stopping you from prosecuting them? I think that the chairman of EFCC should face his job and stop proselytizing about what he thinks or what he's wondering about for us.
Lakunle, thanks so much. You should stop being a philosopher and focus on the job of being the chairman of the EFCC. His JD is called out for him already, like you say. Face your JD. Anyway, let's go over to Devoe. Let's reach out to the Punch newspaper. Let's see what it's saying here. The headline, 30% poultry farms shut down in 6 months. That's according to the Poultry Association of Nigeria, PAN. Walk us through this story and how deep has this happened in 6 months in this year. Devoe, you're muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, these are some of the fallouts of the tragic economic situation that Nigeria is going through. And most times we don't discuss the sectorial fallouts. As you can see, multinationals have been packing up out of the country. You can see that even the few that are left are struggling, down to the SME sector, and especially when it comes to inflation, the sector that hits Nigeria most. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. But I think, Lakunle, you can mute while Devoe goes on now. Go ahead, Devoe.
Okay, so when it talks about food inflation, there are many factors affecting various food sectors. And in this story, the poultry sector is being circled out. And the National Publicity Secretary of the Poultry Association of Nigeria was saying that 30% of their farmers have shut down due to the key challenges that they faced, which is the high cost of operation. Now, this high cost of operation is targeted especially at the cost of feed. Many of the farmers, obviously, at different levels, cannot afford poultry feed. I mean, I have friends who are in the business, and I know how some friends of mine with over 50 to 100,000 birds told me that they were at the brink of shutting down because they had to be traveling to Kenya, all the way to Kenya, to import feed for their chickens in Nigeria. Imagine that, Omas. Because the few poultry mills who make use of corn, and if you are aware in the markets that corn is almost non-existent in the country at the moment, cannot produce enough to even supply the big poultry farms, talk less of all the other farmers that exist in the country. Hence, my friend had to be going all the way to Kenya. Now, going to Kenya means he has to buy FX, okay, to be able to buy the feed in Kenya and bring back to Nigeria. Now, when you think of all of those costs, especially with the FX devaluation, which has multiplied any cost almost by 3, then at the end of the day, you can begin to understand why the price of egg or chicken in the market is going up at the rate that it is. Now, some other farmers were saying that apart from even the cost of feed, the cost of buying day-old chicks, those who have sold their old layers and broilers are not able to buy new ones. And to that extent, it means that supply is getting limited by the day. Now, it's unfortunate at this point that before the
Is Devoe still with us? Devoe.
Form of protein that people could afford that boiled egg. So I'm hoping that government is going to look at a strategic.
All right, Devoe would have to let you reset your network, but thank you so much.
For,
hello, Devoe.
Yes, it's unfortunate it's gotten to this point, but this is where we are at.
Okay, well, thanks so much. But at some point, we missed out on some of the submission you were making, but let's hope that your network gets better as we proceed. Let's go over now to Lakunle. This next story is where we need you to help us walk through this one where it says you see files, and if it's okay, let's get this is a cholera story, and if we are out of the woods or with the rains comes the risk as it is right now. The Nation newspaper, cholera death rise to 63 from 33 states of the Federation. So, Lakunle.
Okay, so one of the things that we as a people fear or have an aversion for is death. But guess what? All of us, nobody's going to get out of this world except through that. But there are some of these things that we also term avoidable deaths. So a disease outbreak, a disease that is avoidable, that is one of those things that we can categorize as those avoidable deaths, right? Now, we are here today. This is the rainy season. I just said that I'm locked down in the middle of the road is blocked, and water is flowing all over the place. Perhaps the water that is flowing around me now is carrying this bacteria that's causing cholera. The dirty attitude of Nigerians, it's also a starting point where we start from. Every part of our environment is dirty. Cholera is transmitted easily by water or food that you ingest. There's no how the environment that is dirty will probably not harbor this disease. Now, Lagos is supposed to be one of the highest areas of incidences. Just yesterday, Ogun State government acknowledged that there had been one death out of 17 confirmed cases. One death as of yesterday. Many other states are not reporting it as Lagos and Ogun is probably doing. This report says that only 23 local governments of 123 local governments of 774 is free of open defecation. I'm not sure. I cannot be certain that any of the local governments in Lagos is part of this 123 because you see it everywhere you go around Lagos, people openly defecating everywhere. You go to many other states, you see these things happen. Then the other part of this is that how many states in Nigeria today can you go to and open your public taps and treated water runs? So when we talk about people being dirty, we also have to talk about the responsibility of government. Look at us in Lagos, water all around us, yet everybody digs borehole, wells, and then the matter of places where you have wells, where everybody brings their different drawers, is the same bucket that they use to carry to the bathroom, that they carry to the toilets. Everybody brings it around the same place. And so the possibility of the incidence of this thing gets higher and higher. I'm also aware that there's a vaccine for this thing. What is our status with respect to vaccines for cholera? Where are we? What have we done? Do we have? Where can we go and get them? This is also part of what the effort the government was put into ensuring that while we are saying there's cholera outside, do this, do this, do this. There's also that part that say, look, there's vaccine at so and so place, go take yours, and so on and so forth. The last part I want to also now speak to is the personal responsibility of every one of us. We need to be careful of what we eat, what we drink, where we go, the kind of water we consume, and all those things. And if the moment you feel not normal, your body reacts to every ailment the same way at the beginning. But I have a feverish condition, probably diarrhea. Once you feel that you are not your normal self, you feel high temperature, don't assume like most of us do and do self-medication. Please go to the hospital. Cholera can only be confirmed by medical diagnosis in a properly qualified medical facility. Please don't let us self-medicate. Let's get ourselves to the hospital and treat. And the responsibility, again, like I said, goes beyond just avoiding these things. Let's not be dirty. Let government do its own part of the job of providing the basic amenities that will help us to be able to avert these things. Waste disposal, public water, access to medical facility. Thank you.
Now, it's still freshly pressed on smooth 98.1 FM. Still got Lakunle and Devoe here helping us get this better sense of the papers. We've got you also sending your thoughts in already on 0809 444 0981. So let's go over to the messages. Damilola says, well, from Lagos Island says, no, Omas, Kanu should face justice in court. What happens to those killed and beheaded? Who takes responsibility? Who gets justice? The lives of fellow Nigerians killed. Who will be responsible? No, sir. So he disagrees. Political solution to the situation in the southeast. Then comes Abbas Oladepo, who says, Igbo did not get any political solution from the government. We should not rewrite facts. Sunday Igbo never called anyone to kill people and burn government facilities, and he wasn't arrested by the Nigerian government. Neither did any Yoruba leader go to speak for him. Well, it goes on to say, Nnamdi Kanu, when he was outside, instigated the unrest and that has bedeviled the southeast, and the people hailed him. There is no issue in whataboutism here. And who knows who says when he's out, there will be peace in the southeast. Let him face the laws, please. And then comes Barrister Dan Okuda from Igondo saying, political solution is the way to go in Nnamdi Kanu's case if it was applied to Igbo and Mietiala men cases. Why not Nnamdi Kanu? After all, what is good for the geese or sauce for the goose is for the gander also. That's how Dan Okuda puts it this morning. And then Adegboyega Adeteji says, it is good to hear the Southeast governors have agreed to visit and meet President Bola Tinubu on Nnamdi Kanu's issue. I hope and pray by the time they eventually get the chance to meet the president, they will truly and sincerely discuss Nnamdi Kanu release, not that they would trade with it for their own political gains. That's what it's saying. I think the EFCC boss is just playing to the gallery. He's thinking too much. If he's working, it will show enough of unproductive gossip talk, and that makes the headlines and vanish into the air. More action, less talk, Adegboyega says here. And then Ajayi Olonilua comes up to say, the lamentation of the EFCC chairman is unwarranted. He should simply fish out those stealing our money and stop wandering before it becomes a wanderer. Ajayi Olonilua from Magodo GRA Sherry sent us that one. And then Fabian from Ekpe says, it is indeed unfortunate at the double standard the government shows when it comes to insecurity. And the citizens and stakeholders in those parts of the country need to speak out more and fight for equal action. The EFCC chairman, as for him, they should talk less, do more, or hand over to someone else. Fabian from Ekpe left us that. So, Devoe, let's come to you with this next paper, Devoe. From The Guardian comes the headline here, well, proposed mergers rattle MDA's lobbying intensifies at National Assembly. Is this resistance to change, Devoe? Devoe.
What we have here, yes, what we have here is a case of where when we talk about restructuring, this is one of the actions that can actually lead to government getting restructured. Since Tinubu came out with a promise that he would implement at least to some extent, let's say about 40% of the Omatseye reports, there hasn't been much action on it. Now, the committee is coming out to say that action is taking place. The Office of the Secretary General of the federal government is moving on it. However, the National Assembly has asked that the SGF come and defend some of the plans that they have. And this is where some of those who are stuck on keep maintaining status quo are trying to lobby to ensure that their ministries do not get relocated or even merged. And this is the point that this action needs to be taken straight from the presidency and marshaled out as an issue of national security. Now, as you can see here, the budget office, Ben Akabweze, did say that there are 561 federal-owned corporations that are duplicating their task. Now, he's saying that if they're able to do this merger, these mergers and relocations that they have recommended, it will be saving the government about 1.5 trillion. Can you see the big amount that's being lost to inefficiencies at Omas? And that the government wage bill is at about 5 trillion annually. So imagine that they're able to save 1.5 trillion that they could use for other things that are more dearly needed. Because you can see that with government, there's a lot of bureaucracy and inefficiency. And just to give you a teaser of the ministries and departments and agencies that are affected, what they were saying was that the Federal Road Corporation would be merged with the Voice of Nigeria. The National Commission of Museum and Monuments will be merged with the National Gallery of Arts. The National Troupe of Nigeria will be merged with the National Theatre. The National Meteorological Development Center will be merged with the National Meteorological Training Center. The National Agency for Control of HIV, NACA, will be merged with the Center for Disease and Control in the Federal Ministry of Health. The National Emergency Management Agency is to be merged with the National Commission for Refugee Migration and Internal Displaced Persons. The Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, that's the ICRC, will be merged with the Bureau of Public Enterprises, that's the BPE. The National Investment Promotion Commission would be merged with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. The list goes on and on. And basically, you can see how there were so many duplicated ministries. The National Salaries, Income, and Wages Commission is to be subsumed under the Revenue, Mobilization, and Fiscal. They're literally all doing the same thing. Why do we need to be paying several people to be doing the same thing? These are the aspects that we expect the presidency to put his stamp on and implement immediately. It doesn't require, at this point, I'm not saying the National Assembly should not do the job, but they should put a timeline on when they will make the review and ensure that this implementation should be carried out for the sake of saving Nigeria the daily scarce budget that we have.
Now leave me to Lakunle as you help us sum up our last paper, the Vanguard, where it says leak official documents, risk jail. Federal government warns. In about a minute, Lakunle.
Okay, so I think it's high time something got done with this matter. I think that's also one of the things that social media, smart devices has done to our life. Every small thing we are quick to push out there, and no matter whether for good or for bad, whether you agree or you don't agree, in the civil service in government circles, government document is government document. You have no right to share outside if you are not the authority that's supposed to share. So I think I agree with the office of the Secretary General of the Federal Federation. People should be prosecuted for that, and I'll be glad to see the first prosecutions that's going to go on this. Whether we like the policy or not, it is still a government policy until it is made public. Nobody has the right to share those things until the government is ready to share. And that's my opinion about it.
As you make that submission, the quick question again one would ask, but then how accessible when citizens ask the authorities or the ministries involved, we need access to this information. If there were access to information, do you think people would readily want to go patronize leaked documents? Okay,
so there are two different things. We are making a policy plan, and then suddenly it appears in the public. It's different from, I want to know how much Nigeria has spent in the last 10 years. Meanwhile, there's also a Freedom of Information Bill that gives us the right to go ask. Go ask, let them refuse you, and then you will also do the right thing by challenging it in court where you have not been given. You see, we cannot run a democracy if we don't follow the rule of law. Democracy is built on law, and we cannot do anyhow with it. So there are two different things, in my opinion: what you want and what the government has not told you to put out. So that's how I say it.
Thank you so much, Lakunle. What a way to wrap up the conversation. So let's reach out to the messages as we sum up now and say goodbye. This is from Joseph Menye from Silver Estate, who says the government at all levels aren't just concerned but paying lip service about the cholera epidemic. Many drains are blocked, causing artificial flood, marketplaces and environment as well. Also, fast-track the vaccine to curb the menace. That's Joseph Menye's thought this morning. And then comes, Devoe once more. Jail term will not scare people from leaking government documents. If there is accountability and sincerity on the part of government, people or opposition party will not hire anyone to leak documents. And then Pastor Dakbo says from Bodilon says, we are just talking about Nnamdi Kanu alone. What about the other person abroad still instigating or stoking the fire back here in the Southeast? And then Fabian says, I disagree regarding leaked documents. If it comes out, the direct person who leaked it first should be prosecuted and not others. This occurs in other crimes, i.e., we've got the WikiLeaks founder who just got out recently. That's just to put it aside there. We're not in a dictatorship. Well, that's how we wrap up this morning and say thank you so much to Lakunle, Yusuf for your time, and Devoe, Okorie. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Stay dry and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Devoe. Thank